So Kevin, what library are you with?
I'm at the Perot Memorial Library in Old
Oh,
Greenwich.
yes, I emailed you yesterday.
Yes, yep, thank you.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
reminder. Yes, so the Palace project in the Palace mobile app. So the project in total is called the Palace project, and it's comprised of all different pieces of software. The mobile app will be called Palace. Is in development by Lyrasis right now. It's built on the library simplified open source code base from the New York Public Library. And Brad can talk about our long history of partnering together and working on the Simply E app. Several months ago, gosh, probably over 6 months ago now, where I don't even know what time is anymore. Lyrasis received a large grant from the Knight Foundation to build on what the New York Public Library had started. So that's kind of the background on the Palace project. In the meantime, Lyrasis has hired a lot of staff, a lot of technical staff, and started to develop the Palace mobile app. And we have internally been testing a beta release of the app. So we're getting very close to having it ready for production release, essentially, in the various Android and Apple app stores. We are hoping by the end of this calendar year that the Palace app will be in the app stores. We don't have a concrete date from our development team quite yet, but Tara and Heather and I have been pushing them to pick a date and release. So as soon as we have something on the calendar, we'll be sharing that out to all of our libraries. In the meantime, we are still getting libraries configured, like your library, Kevin, and for other libraries who had previously been configured and previously live in Simply E, we're moving them from kind of our old infrastructure to the Palace-based infrastructure that Lyrasis hosts for libraries in Connecticut. So that work started actually this week. And as soon as we have that work completed on our end, we'll be reaching out to Connecticut libraries to give them essentially a preview, a sneak peek of their library in the Palace app. We're hoping to start that work mid-November, reaching out to libraries so they can see what their library looks like and how it works in Palace before making the jump and promoting to patrons. So again, as soon as we have, essentially we're waiting on our tech team to give us a date on the calendar for the release of the Palace app. But in the meantime, we have been configuring libraries who are interested in getting started, and also transitioning libraries who had been on Simply E over to Palace and kind of waiting mode for the app release. Let's see, what else can I say on that? The app itself will have all of the same features and functionality as Simply E, if you had ever used that. So all of your local libraries content providers, if you work directly with Overdrive, or if you have your own Biblioteca or Baker and Taylor collections, are integrated into Palace, as well as the wonderful collections that the Connecticut State Library provides from Baker and Taylor, from the Digital Public Library of America. They have a marketplace that Connecticut has purchased materials through, as well as a collection from BiblioBoard. So those three collections get integrated alongside your library's collections in Palace. And then we also add in the Open Bookshelf collection from the Digital Public Library of America, which is, I think, over 11,000 titles now of open materials. Yep. So we Lyrasis, Tara and I, get that all configured for you. We add your library logo and your library branding, so that when your patrons download Palace, they see something that visually looks like your library, and then they have access to all of those materials. And of course, we integrate with your library's ILS as well. So patrons can use the same barcode or barcode and pin, if you require the pin, in Palace as they would in your library catalog.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the very succinct overview and timeline. And that's all I really wanted to tune in and find out today. But I'm still in the process of obtaining the technical details that you asked for, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you, and we'll see you again, hopefully very soon.
Well, thanks for stopping in, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
So we have Ashley and Elizabeth here. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. I have a couple questions. I thought I had already converted us over to Simply E, but I hadn't completed the process. So there's no point now, right? I should just jump on Paper Palace. And how do I proceed with that as you're talking about the configuring the library?
Good question. I can see Tara typing in the background to see where we left off with Sherman Library and your configurations. Are you part of one of the consortia?
Yes, Bibliomation.
So we likely already have your library, your library configured because we have the Bibliomation ILS and the Bibliomation Overdrive collection. And so you're likely already configured and we just need to confirm typically what we do for consortium members that we've already configured that have been just hanging out in test mode is we send along all of the things that we've configured on your behalf already. So your ILS, if it's through Bibliomation, the Overdrive, the Bibliomation Overdrive, if we have your Overdrive Advantage collection, if you have one, and then any other content providers you might have, we just confirm all of that looks right. And as soon as we have Palace ready to go, we'll reach out and we'll just let you know that you're all set. I think we have everything. I'll defer to Tara though, because I'm sure you're looking right at Sherman Library's configs.
Yes, I was just looking to check and it looks like we do have you configured.
Okay.
So I was just checking to see if there's any details, but I'm pretty sure we already have you caught up. And then I think we had you added to the Mighty Network. Is that true? Did you join there, the kind of like social hub?
I don't think so. That doesn't sound familiar to me, but
no.
Mighty Network. Oh, I may have recently. Yeah. I think Brad may have sent something along to me and I jumped onto that.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, so we have your information. We have you there. That Mighty Network is kind of the place where we're going to post updates as they go. And then we'll also reach out to you directly once Palace is ready for you to test for your library specifically. But right now, you don't really need to do anything until that time comes, probably, like Carissa had just said, mid-November-ish is what we're hoping to target. And first, you and your staff can test out the app, make sure everything looks correct, it functions correctly, and then you'll be able to go live with your patrons whenever you're ready. But like we're officially saying we're live on the first week of December is our target right now.
Okay. Couple other questions. So this kind of eats up Libby. And that it's all in one spot, or you've got people still in Overdrive and people in Libby, and then simply they get very confused with it. But this will now be that's all in Paper Palace, or will be in Paper Palace.
Yeah, it's like a complement to Libby. So if people who love Libby and that's all they want to use, they can continue to use it. But we hope that they would give Palace a try because it will have all of the content or most of the content available through this one source. So that's like one of the reasons why it should be easier for them, because the Overdrive content will be there. And then any of your other collections that you have will be there. Plus the stuff that Brad buys through the State Library will also be there for them. So they can have both, or they can just use Palace, or they, if they only want Libby, they can just do that too. But it's just like another option for them.
And it's a similar model borrowing wise, not like a Hoopla. It's we share with everyone if it's available or jump on the waiting list kind of thing.
Right. That's right.
And Hoopla is not involved. I remember when Simply E first came out, that wasn't with it. It was a different animal. Okay.
No, currently it's not integrated, but it's on our list, our roadmap for our developers and for our staff to basically we have to work with Hoopla to, have a deal where they'll allow us to do that. And then we have to build the functionality to be able to, stream, whether it's, whatever type of content they may be offering, we need to be able to display that through the app. So that's definitely on our wish list, but we're not quite there yet.
Does Paper Palace, or will it have a special magazine section too, or?
No, currently no magazines, right, Carissa, as far as I know.
No, but that's on our list as well. We were just, it's funny that you asked, we were just brainstorming last Thursday, as a matter of fact, as a team, what our priorities are going to be after launch. And we were specifically targeting the list of other vendors that we'd like to integrate and other formats that we'd like to integrate. And magazines as well as Hoopla were right at the top of the list. Of course, audio and video content is shortly thereafter, as what we as formats that we get asked quite a bit about making available in Palace. So we don't have a timeline for that yet, but our goal is after launch, we'll have a public roadmap that we can point to as well. And we can say, oh, our goal for Hoopla, let's say, is, I don't know, October 2022, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. And it'll be great to be able to point to something that is published for you folks to kind of follow along in terms of what's on our development roadmap.
Great.
I would ask, do you have any other vendors? Oh, sorry, Brad.
I was just going to jump in and say, in terms of content, just to kind of make the selling point for Palace, for folks that are really tied to Libby, is the content that the state purchases typically doesn't duplicate what's in Overdrive. So if you go to Palace to access the content, the Overdrive content's there, but then a whole bunch of other content that they wouldn't see in Libby is going to be there. So that's kind of one of the selling points is, you know, we're buying more and more content every day to add that, you know, that your users can access for free. And obviously, you know, your library is getting access to it for free. So that's one of the goals, is really to not duplicate the Overdrive collection and buy bestsellers, but to have a more expansive collection. So that's one of the points that you can share with patrons as you begin to roll it out.
Okay, so they have a choice. It's funny, it gets confusing to some people. I know it, you know, oh, Hoopla, if you buy it's there, but they don't have as much. So check Libby and, you know, check this. And it does confuse some people. At some point, being just one funnel will be helpful. But yeah, it does. Some people are just like, I don't get it. And why can't I just get this right now? Well, just jump on. Like I tell them how I kind of, you know, I'll get something on Hoopla while I wait, but then I've got this whole list on Libby, and then they come in, I listen to them or read them. So it is, you know, if you know how to kind of work the system, it works well. But for your typical patron, it's a little confusing sometimes.
Yeah,
definitely.
Having to juggle 3 different apps in the wait list or what have you in each is, yeah, definitely problematic. So we're hoping to resolve some of that. The one thing I wanted to add on what Brad just said, the wonderful thing about Palace as well is as the state library buys more content, it automatically just feeds into your library in the Palace app. There's no additional actions that you need to take from your library's perspective for that content to be made available immediately to your patrons, which is something I think that's really helpful as well. Is you can just once we integrate those collections, you don't even have to think about it anymore. Brad can do all of the content curation and it'll just flow right into the Palace app and be available to your patrons.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's when I place an order, say in DPLA or Baker and Taylor, it's usually within 24 hours and often sooner that I check and it's already in, you know, in the app. So it happens very quickly when I make the purchases.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. So I'll go to the Mighty Network and check in. Thank you for all your help.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
So I'm from Ivoryton and I'm behind the desk, which is why I have no video because I'm helping people and muting when the phone rings. But I just wanted to join in because it did say the description for this particular meeting would be, you know, an update of when this might roll out. And so I'm so sorry if you've covered this because I have been bopping back and forth. But do you have an idea of when we'll be going live for Palace?
Yeah, that's a great question. And no worries, we totally understand people have to multitask. So we don't, I guess the short story is we don't have a definitive date. What we are hoping to do for Connecticut libraries is right now, this week actually, Tara and I are moving Connecticut libraries configurations who had been on Simply E over to Palace. So that's a lot of like technical work on our end to just transition configurations, all the boring stuff. We're going to do our internal testing, make sure we've not missed any zeros and ones as we've transitioned libraries over to Palace. Test all of your libraries, and then we're hoping to reach out by mid-November to give you a preview access to your library in Palace, so you and your colleagues can kind of play around, get familiar and comfortable with it. And as Tara had mentioned previously, we're targeting the beginning of December to kind of turn over Palace to you live. You can then decide to promote to your patrons then, or at any point afterwards. When you decide to promote Palace to your patrons is entirely up to you. We're just hoping we'll have your library in Palace, in production, fully tested and ready for you, kind of sparkling and shiny and brand new by the beginning of December. And then from there, you can promote to your patrons at any point in time after that. So that's what we're shooting for. The one caveat is that we haven't gotten an official date from our colleagues on the development team of when they'll have the Palace app like fully released in the Android and Apple app stores. So we're hoping, they've told us early December, fingers crossed.
Right.
But, so that's our plan leading up to that. If it changes, we'll be notifying everybody through the Mighty Network, and we'll be reaching out to individual Connecticut libraries, hopefully in the middle of November, to give you the kind of the preview access to your library in Palace, so you can start testing and looking at it yourselves.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.